guess what? You have gold, you have something solid to turn to, an insurance policy, if you will. And what do I think gold's going to do? Look, I think ultimately it will be higher in dollar value, but buying power, gold is pretty consistent. Gold buys about the same amount through time as it always has.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. It's Rick Nuske here. I hope you're doing really well. Thank you very much for joining us. If this is your first time on the show with us, welcome. It's great to have you here. And for everybody else who's been here before, thank you very much for supporting this show. It's wonderful knowing that it is making a difference for you. Now, this is the show that gets you in front of your best audience and keeps you there. So strap in tight. We're going to have some fun today because I'm on the line with the wonderful Dr. Quinton Hennig.
All right, you're right.
I'm very well, thank you. I've got 2 feet and a heartbeat. I can't complain too much is something I'd like to say. Now, you're a strategic shareholder at Crescat Capital. We're going to be talking about, I guess, your involvement with a number of the resources industry, how you got involved with the natural resources sector and the likes, and going to take a bit of a deep dive, if you don't mind, into your life leading up to this point, because I know that you're a geologist with more than 25 years of exploration experience, and to me that's fascinating because I've worked in surface exploration drilling probably just as long. Now, I'd love to learn a little bit about that and learn a little bit about your involvement as a strategic shareholder and just see what your life is like compared to many of those that you work with. So let's start off by learning a little bit about you. Where's home for you?
I live in Colorado, just north of Denver.
Fantastic. Has that been home for you all your life, or?
Pretty much, yes.
Pretty much?
Long time.
Yep.
Yeah,
fantastic. What do you like about the place?
The weather's quite nice here. Look, it's maybe cloudy or rainy, maybe 50 days out of the year. Otherwise, we're probably one of the sunniest places in the United States.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that sort of weather, but I do like skiing and snow and that sort of thing. Do you have any hobbies? Do you like that sort of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is we live down in the flats here, so no skiing right here, but certainly up the mountains, great skiing.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, I know that, being, somebody who is involved in business a lot of the time, maybe you don't get a lot of time to do much relaxation, hobbies and the likes, but when you do, what is the main thing that you like to do? Do you ski or do you play a sport or? My main hobby or passion is going out and prospecting. Actually, I have grandkids now, so I actually take them out and go prospecting up in the mountains. Yeah, fantastic. That's excellent. And like that's the old style sort of just panning?
We do a little bit of everything. Go scrounge around on mine dumps, do some panning, just about anything you can think of.
Now tell me, have you been lucky? Have you struck anything?
Look, I consider myself lucky, yes.
That's excellent. Now, when you were growing up, did you have any pets? You're a pet guy?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was always dogs. Yes.
Yeah, what sort of dogs do you like?
Oh, look, usually bigger dogs, shepherds. We got Leon Burger right now. I've had Great Pyrenees, usually big dogs.
Yeah, no, I'm a big dog lover myself. We have 3 Rottweilers. We're very much a large dog family here ourselves, and they make you feel good when things are not so good, don't they? You can just cuddle them up, and they do have a tendency to make you feel better.
They do, yep. You make you feel better. Great foot warmer, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, tell us, when you were growing up, I love to get some context about people's lives that I'm speaking with. Do you have one thing in your life as a child or when you were growing up that you remember fondly that you could share with us?
Oh, look, when I was growing up, I stayed with my grandparents quite a bit. They have a farm right at the foothills of the mountains here in Colorado. And I went up in the mountains every weekend with my grandfather, who had kind of a secret passion for mining and rocks and so forth. So I remember that as a kid.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, with your, your daily routines, you're very busy, presumably. Do you have much downtime? And what's a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, look, I work mainly from home at this point. I was traveling, prior to COVID, I was traveling about 70% of the time. I've made some pretty dramatic shifts here. I'm now working mainly out of the house or office. And I find that I kind of have two shifts during the day. I work from about 7 or 8 in the morning till about 4 in the afternoon on stuff here in North America. When evening rolls around, I continue my duties as co-chairman of Novo Resources, which is Australia focused. So I have lots of calls with my team over in Perth.
Excellent. Western Australia, they're going through some interesting times at the moment with lockdowns and the likes, aren't they?
Very much so, yeah.
Now, I'd love to learn a little bit about, I guess, the genesis. I know that you've always been into this sort of field, even from a hobby perspective. It's turned into something of obviously of a passion for you. When did you get involved in the natural resources sector? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, look, I as I said, I kind of learned to love rocks and prospecting when I was a kid.
Yep.
But I went to work in an underground mine when I was 16. I worked high school and college, early college years in the summers, working for an underground gold mine here in Colorado. And I kind of had a choice at that time. I was thinking, maybe I should go into engineering or maybe I should go into geology. By the end of that experience, I decided my passion was more towards the geologic end, so I decided to go into exploration and started working for major mining companies when I was getting my master's degree. I worked for Homestake, and then I worked for Newcrest and Newmont, and then more recently I've gone to work for the junior space.
So as you know very well, to be a geologist working in some pretty harsh environments, it takes a certain type of personality, let's say. Did you ever find it tough to be out in the outback?
Usually the toughest aspect is being away from home for considerable periods of time. Most of my career I've been away, say 60-70% of the time. You miss a lot. You miss a lot of your kids growing up and stuff. That is absolutely hands down the toughest part. There are other tough aspects to the job, trying to operate camps in remote areas and making sure all the stuff is organized to undertake, say, a remote drilling program or stuff, something like this. It's a lot of stuff. You gotta work. There's a lot of 18-hour days in an environment like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's for sure and certain. There's no shortage of good deep sleep at the end of the day, is there?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, I know that you've been involved and instrumental in a number of amazing projects. I'm wondering if you could share, I guess let's start off with some time ago, the Kirkland Lake project. Could you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Certainly. Look, Kirkland Lake is a Canadian-focused, or was a Canadian-focused mining company for many years, really. And Eric Sprott was the chairman. This is going back to 2016. And in May of 2016, he called me. I was in Australia. I had kind of, advised Eric, mostly on a no-charge basis. Eric's been a good supporter, good friend.
Yep.
And he called me one day, and when I was in Perth, I asked if I could go look at a mine called Fosterville. Well, I knew Fosterville. It's a fairly well-known mine. And up until that point, it had been mining, we'll call it, low grade, 4 or 5 gram rock, and it was barely making money. It was underground at that point. And the reason Eric was interested is because they had just started hitting some high grade drill intercepts. These were holes that were just out in front of the mining front, so it was just, they were basically living hand to mouth and drilling in advance of the mining front to keep that reserve base up was critical to making the mine work. Well, they just so happened to hit some high-grade numbers starting in late 2015, early 2016. Eric took notice. He is very fond of high-grade. He understands mines and making money and margins. So he wanted me to look at this thing. I went over to look at it. I was kind of ready to be disappointed, thinking, maybe it's just a small chute they found, a high-grade chute or something. And when I got there, I was actually quickly convinced that it was not just an anomaly, that it was part of something that was going to turn out to be much, much bigger. I spent about 2 or 3 days on site. I looked at the mineralization, and it happened to be a kind of a unique setting. It was more or less the high level portion of an orogenic gold deposit, what we call epizonal gold system.
Yep.
And they had gone from this 4 or 5 gram rock down into some very high grades very abruptly, and I felt compelled that they were going to see a lot more of the high grade, even though they had not drilled very far down dip.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote a report for Eric, said I think this thing's going to be bigger than Ben-Hur, and he ended up buying out the position from Crescat Capital, I believe it was.
Yep.
And then soon after, I got a notice that from a banker that there was a party looking to undertake due diligence as part of a transaction. I thought, he said, "Can you help us out?" I said, "Sure." Went down there, found out, lo and behold, it was Kirkland Lake. It's not too big of a surprise, but anyway, I helped with that aspect. One of the more intriguing things that happened during that time, I did recommend to Eric that they drill a hole fairly far down plunge from where they had been drilling high grade, just to demonstrate, there was some continuity or some persistence to this system.
Yep.
And they actually drilled that hole in June and July of 2016. I remember getting to site to undertake the due diligence work, and they had that hole laid out. And what was interesting was the hole did encounter about 20 or 25 meters of intense stockwork quartz veining, much like you could see around the high grade up higher in the mine. But the difference was there was no readily visible gold evident in that core. And so there was a bit of, that cast a bit of doubt. Well, is it there? Is it not there?
Yep.
I saw that quartz, and I felt compelled that it was. I thought it was a near miss. And I told Eric such, and they persisted with the transaction. And ultimately, Kirkland bought out New Market. At the time, I think a lot of people were scratching their head. But it turned out that drill hole was a mere, something like 15 meters or so away from what turned out to be the Swan Zone.
That's nothing, isn't it?
It was a phenomenal end to that story.
Yeah, thank you so very much for sharing this. I love this sort of, real life experience. It's amazing. Now, what sort of holes did they end up going to? Were they kilometers? How deep were the holes?
That hole was about, I think, 600 or 800 meters down plunge from the mining face. So I'm going to guess, it was around a 900 meter deep hole. The plunge on the system is about 15 or 20 degrees. So
right.
It descends gradually. So they don't have to go, it's not straight down.
Yeah.
So they were able to get to it, I think, around 800 or 900 meters. I'd have to look back through my notes.
As I've said earlier, it's a privilege to speak with somebody with so much experience, and I'd love to ask you about VMS deposits. Do you often look for or hope for, getting involved with other base commodities, minerals, when you do drills like this?
Yeah, look, with VMS deposits, did you say?
Well, look, any other.
Yeah, look, I so happen to do my master's and PhD on base metal deposits.
Fantastic.
On VMS systems. I did my master's at Kid Creek on the tin mineralization there, and then I did my PhD at Neves Corvo, which is a copper tin mine, or was a copper tin mine. Now mining zinc. I believe the Lundins are still mining that. I have a passion for VMS. I studied under Richard Hutchinson, very famous VMS geologist. So that's kind of my space, comfort zone. I happen to be helping SK Mining, which is an explorer up in the Golden Triangle that's looking for replications of the SK Creek deposits, the property right next door to SK Creek. And yes, SK Mining is finding some very interesting stuff right now. So it's an exciting story.
Excellent. Thank you again for sharing. Now, I'm shifting gears a little bit. I'd love to learn a bit more about your part in the success of Newfound. Could you share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, certainly. Look, I'd known Craig Roberts, who's this current CEO, for many, many years. And Craig had asked me to help work on a project out in Nevada. And I went out on a trip to Nevada. This is immediately prior to COVID. At that time, while we were in Nevada, I met Colin Cattell for the first time in person. I had talked to Colin several times on the phone prior, but I met him for the first time in person. And one evening during that trip, Craig and Colin said, "Hey, you know something about Fosterville?" And I explained the very same story I just told you. And they said, "Well, have a look at this core." And they showed me some images off their telephone of some core from what looked like Fosterville. I said, "How on earth did you get photos of high-grade from Fosterville?" He said, "It isn't. It's from a new discovery." I said, "Oh, my gosh, you're kidding me." And after talking for a little bit more about the new discovery, we decided to make a trip. This is when the company was private. We went up to Newfoundland late January, early February of 2020, and I got to see firsthand what is clearly another Fosterville type discovery. It's an epizonal, very high-grade gold system. It's basically outcropping its surface, but it's clearly continuing down, much like the Fosterville story. It's continuing down plunge for a long, long way. I think
long way.
A very, very good story. So, I've been, after that trip, I felt compelled enough that the story was going to be another Fosterville, that we arranged a share swap between Novo and Newfound Gold. That share swap has paid off bigly for Novo in terms of value. The company helped that valuation that we set during that share swap helped set the valuation for the company as it went to an IPO. It IPO'd in August, and it's been a phenomenal success.
Do you take much notice of neighbouring properties in terms of topography and what they're finding? And because you would expect that you would have neighbouring success often. Would that be the case?
Absolutely. Look, Lab Gold is immediately north of the Keats and Lotto area, and they're finding similar high grade now. They're being very diligent. I know the story quite well. I've been advisor to them over the past few months. And look, the story is very similar. It's very high-grade mineralization. You got to be very patient, diligent, do small step outs to kind of feel your way into the system. But once you find it, it pays off. And yes, in this case, Newfound, Lab, and perhaps even some other companies in the region are going to all have similar discoveries.
I'd love to learn a little bit about, I guess, the strategic work that you do and what's involved. I guess, what are you looking for? You're looking for businesses that not only have, obviously, the minerals in the dirt, as it were, but are you looking for anything else? Are you looking for, the business infrastructure? You're looking for the right management teams? I'd just love to learn a little bit about that side of your thought patterns.
Yeah, most of what I'm focused on is geology and a scientific hypothesis. The question being, is there a big gold deposit here? Most of the time. Okay, so I'm focused on the deposit, the aspects of the deposit that might indicate it's big. Something potentially world class,
worthwhile.
And as far as people go, it is very important to have a good team. The companies that I've either helped or been associated with, usually what I do is I work with the team. If they have people in place, usually people I know, hey, it's really, really easy. Other times I've had to help them build a team. SK Mining would be a good example. I helped Mac Balcom build the team that they have operating there now. So yes, team is important, because if you have the team, then you can fulfill your first goal, which is to test the hypothesis, and then the next thing, obviously, beyond the property, the people, is the cash. You got to make sure the company is cashed out.
Absolutely. Now, I know that Crescat has made some moves, as it were, with a company called Blue Lagoon Resources. Could you tell us a little bit about why that occurred?
Yeah, look, these are stories I love to tell, because they kind of fall out of nowhere. Like, this is not a company I knew. This is not a project I knew. In fact, the project was owned privately for many years. But when the story was presented to me, there was talk about taking a small mine into production. That is not my cup of tea. I like exploration. I like
Understood.
finding gold in the ground, basically.
Yep.
But what really intrigued me was, as we went through this presentation, the geologist who was on the line, Bill Cronk, he started to talk about certain aspects of the geology, and it started to make me think, I think this thing might be a certain type of deposit that can potentially be very big and high grade. It's known as an alkaline gold system. Some people will call them carbonate base metal gold deposits. It depends on the geologist you talk to. But look, these are not all that common. They're fairly rare on Earth. But when you find one, they can be really, really big systems, and they can also deliver high grade. And I'm seeing that here. I'm seeing the high grades.
Yep.
I'm seeing evidence that the footprint of the system is quite large. I'm seeing the right associations. You got alkaline volcanic or igneous and volcanic rocks here.
Yep.
You got all the bells and whistles. Every box.
Tick.
Yep.
Yeah, fantastic. Do you think potentially there's a long production life to this site?
Look, it's an early stage story. This is all about exploration right now. It's about making discovery, testing that hypothesis. Okay, if what I'm telling you is correct, if the company does this work and then demonstrates that you do have an extensive vein system here, I think most people will rationalize, yes, this is a very big system. But that's down the road a little ways. Okay, the first step is to do some really good science, collect some data sets that the company needs. And I've talked to Bill Cronk about that. He's actually putting together the program to augment their current database with some more data. That's great. Okay. Then the next step is going to be, they are drilling right now, but will be to take that new data and modify their current drill program to take in some new targets, new ideas, and test this thing in a way that's more commensurate with the style of deposit we have.
Yeah.
If that initial drill program pans out, if we start to see high-grade drill intercepts over a big area in multiple veins, then yeah, I think the hypothesis can be said to be true. And then from that point forward, you're going to drill this thing for 2 or 3 years steady.
Excellent.
And as you do so, I think the world will wake up and go, wow, these guys are onto a multi-million ounce high-grade gold system.
Need to get involved. Now, I recall a vivid memory that I have of walking with a geologist out in the outback. As they were mapping, they were taking core samples, kilometres of the stuff, laying it out on tables and walking up and down, looking at all these core samples. It was a fascinating process. How many kilometres, let's say, would you need to inspect for you to get a good feel that you are onto something? I'd just love to learn a bit more about that side of it.
Look, I think what you're saying is not necessarily to define a resource, but to just get comfort around.
Yeah, that's correct.
The hypothesis, if what you're drilling is indeed what you think it is. Look, in this case, I would say, a few thousand meters, maybe somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 meters, is probably going to give us most of our initial answer. Is this truly one of these carbonate base metal gold systems? If so, it means you're going to be drilling a lot more, okay? But I think at that point, after, say, 10,000 meters in this case, I would feel very comfortable that, and assuming that the data comes back like you hope, that you see, again, multiple high-grade veins and a pretty wide distribution, both laterally and vertically.
Yes.
If you see that, then, yep, I would say that gives you the confidence to pull the ripcord and drill, start drilling this thing out at resource level.
Yeah, it's one of those probabilities as well, isn't it? Once you've got enough data on the balance of probabilities, well, let's go forward with this. Now, I know that Blue Lagoon Resources have multi-project sites. Are you involved or interested in any of the other projects that are going on?
To be frank, no, I haven't even really done much of a dive into those. Dome Mountain is my focus. I think that this is a winner. I think it could be the next Baritica or, Kellyan deposit or, pick your favorite carbonate base metal gold system. This thing has the potential to deliver multiples for the company. So I'm focused like a laser on this one.
Now, I'd love to talk with you a little bit off track slightly in terms of gold. Why gold, why now is a question I like to ask. And what's your opinion of gold in terms of, the federal government seemingly willing to just print trillions and trillions of dollars? And what's the intrinsic value of gold by comparison?
Yeah, look, gold is valued in dollars, but gold should be valued in gold.
Yeah,
that's my first comment. Gold is really an insurance policy. If people own gold, they have safety against devaluing currencies. That's what we're seeing right now. When's the best time to have an insurance policy? Well, when there's raging forest fires around you, or hurricanes coming ashore, or whatever metaphor you want here. But we've got all sorts of trouble brewing in the financial system right now. Yeah. Really, to the point where none of us. I talk to really smart people, and I don't think anybody has a clue how this is all going to unfold. But guess what? You have gold. You have something solid to turn to, an insurance policy, if you will. And what do I think gold's going to do? Look, I think ultimately it will be higher in dollar value, absolutely. But buying power, gold is pretty consistent. Gold buys about the same amount through time as it always has. You've heard the metaphor about, or the anecdote rather about, it took about an ounce of gold to buy a proper man's toga and belt and sandals and stuff back in Roman time. Guess what?
Yep.
It takes about an ounce to buy a proper suit these days.
It's all relative.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you again. I'm loving this call. Just the insight you've been willing to share. It's phenomenal. Thank you. Now, I know that there's talk of, at the moment, we're going through this cycle and we're just about to, we're in the midst of the biggest bubble in history. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, it's not going to be a smooth line. It's going to be a bit of up and down. You look at the 1970s, there were 3 inflationary cycles within the space of a decade. I think we're going to go through similar times here. It's not going to be where everybody wakes up one morning and that's invested in silver and gold, and then all of a sudden they feel filthy rich. That's not how this works. There's going to be a lot of pain that comes along with this, not necessarily for gold investors, but for the greater economic system. I think we're going to see kind of waves form, volatile waves form over the next decade, but ultimately, gold will peak out as the whole fiat system kind of falls on its ass.
Now, in terms of, it's almost becoming somewhat of a dirty word to some people, but cryptocurrency, what's your opinion of that sort of space?
Look, at the end of the day, cryptocurrency, if governments were to intervene, if there were laws, new laws imposed around taxes or trading ability to trade, or if for some reason the internet doesn't work, or you lose your zip drive or whatever,
so many variables.
That's not a fun ending. Okay, I like gold. It doesn't tend to disappear magically. I can understand gold. It does not require a ledger or
it's a tangible thing
or whatever. It's a very tangible thing. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I heard somebody recently say that the first bar of gold that was ever produced is still that bar of gold. It doesn't really go anywhere, does it? In many respects.
Exactly. I got the same, when I was a kid. I got the same gold that I found back then in a little tiny bottle.
Yeah, beautiful. And keep that safe and secure, that's for sure and certain. Now, with Crescat Capital, the primary driver is gold. Are there any other interests for the organisation?
Look, I'd say 90% of the assets we have, are gold companies, mainly exploration. I should say gold and silver. But we do have some exposure to base metal. The underlying macro thesis is we are going into an inflationary period, and that will benefit. It'll benefit all things, all commodities, metal commodities. So I think that we have a very solid thesis that is going to pay off big time over the next few years.
Thank you very much. I wonder if people are on this call and they want to learn a little bit more about Crescat Capital, where are they likely to find you?
Sure, Crescat.net is how you find more about Crescat and the funds that we run. I obviously had the precious metal group. I'm responsible for picking most of the investment opportunities in the precious metal space. But we also have macro funds that also do quite well. They're more contrarian space based on the current view that inflation is coming and there will be a financial meltdown sometime in the not too distant future. So I would encourage people to go to the website, read a bit about each of the funds, the background of Kevin Smith and Tavi Costa. I think you'll find that the group is an exceptional team, very smart people. And then also, Blue Lagoon here, bluelagoonresources.com to find out as much as you can about the company that we're talking about.
Yeah, this has been just one of those calls that we could take on so many different directions. We are literally just scratching the surface of the exciting story that is unfolding in front of us with Crescat and Blue Lagoon. And it's been such a wonderful opportunity having you on the show today. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.